If your nervous system is always set up for chaos rather than peace, it will seek out chaos. So peace feels, oh, that's weird. It's like there's nothing to worry about. That's strange. I better go and find something that causes drama or stress.
Welcome to The King Within, a podcast for men who seem to have it all, yet feel like they're losing what matters most. I'm Mike Salemi and I've been there. Successful on paper but disconnected on the inside. This isn't about grinding harder. It's about mastering your emotions, leading with calm strength, and rebuilding trust at home. Each week we dive into real stories and tools for becoming the man your family runs towards, not away from. Because you didn't build this life to lose yourself in it. This is The King Within. Let's do the work. Most men don't realize how much their language leaks their power. Every maybe, I'll try, and I think quietly chips away at trust, with others and with themselves. And to be honest, I've caught myself before doing the same. That's why this conversation hits home for me. Today I'm joined by Ryan Martin, a high-performance health and vitality coach who has spent years helping people rebuild their energy and resilience from the inside out. Ryan recently returned from our Men of Movement retreat, and this conversation picks up right where that experience left off, in the integration, reflection, and real-life application of what it means to live as a grounded man. We talk about panic attacks that felt like heart attacks, the cost of overcommitment, and how cleaning up your language can change how your body, your partner, and your family feel you. If you're feeling stretched thin between doing more and being more, this one's for you. Please remember to follow the show and leave a quick review. It helps more men find these conversations. Let's drop in.
It was on one of the podcasts I listened to. He talked about soft talk.
Yeah, I have those sheets everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it here. It's one on the fridge, in the car.
It's good.
I mean, those words, what do you see on there? Probably, perhaps, feels like, guess, maybe, could, might, sort of, kind of, potentially, hopefully, try, one day, should, almost like.
Possibly,
yeah. Very common. Which one's your most common?
Possibly, potentially. Yeah, probably. Try, maybe. I'd say try. I don't say that much, but possibly and potentially. Probably. The 3 Ps.
I think for me, maybe filler word for sure, like or feels like, which actually isn't even a feeling. It's usually more of a thought.
No, like's not on there, but yeah, I use that. Having been out of a girl from California as well for 3 years, the Americans use like quite a lot. So yeah, that's been one. Just so people understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, so what we're talking about right now, there's a word sheet right in front of where the camera is, and it says soft talk challenge. So this comes from the Enlifted method, which is really a lot of where my work with language and story work comes from. Mark England is the founder of that, let's just say that brand of inner work. And so one of the things, and this is super important, I believe, for all people, but especially for men who want to step into, we can say more of their king energy, or more competent and confident leaders who want to be more decisive in their life. The repetitive and unconscious use of our language is oftentimes what keeps us stuck in the same negative cycle. And when we look at words, which are the building block of any story, if we look at the specific words we're using now, soft talk words, I'll give you an example. I probably think I should start working out sometime soon. When I say that, what do you feel? What comes up?
Well, it's just there's no commitment really. It's doesn't have any conviction to it.
There's no conviction, no commitment. Absolutely, it's watery. Like, you gonna trust me if I say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no trust. Yeah, no trust because you're not committing to anything, and so it's easy for you just to break it. It means that you're flaky.
Flaky, yeah. And a lot of men want to show up, or at least the ones that I'm in front of, many that you're in front of, they want to step up and be more sovereign. They want to step up and be more leaders of their own life and their families. And so when we use these words like soft talk, it creates ambiguity, indecisiveness, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And so if we just switch that to, we just call it solid talk. So I think I said, and I think is a soft talk word, but I think I said, and there's a time and a place to use this stuff.
Yeah, because you're actually thinking that. You're not going, oh, I think I might do. You're actually trying to recall what you said.
Exactly. So there's a time and a place as long as there's intentionality with it. But if I were to say, I'm going to start working out Wednesday at 5 a.m., boom, there's no way out. Like, there is no question where I'm going to be at 5 a.m. on that day this week. And so a big part of this is to bring first and foremost into our awareness a lot of these words that we don't even realize. Why does my lady, my wife, my girlfriend not feel safe in my presence, or not trust me, not trust my leadership as much as I would like? And one of the areas to go, and this is one of 4 building blocks of, you and I were talking about very briefly before recording, around the victim mentality. Like, you did say that. And soft talk is one of the 4-ish pillars of the victim mentality. So just by having this in my awareness with every client session, with my own work, it's everywhere. And imagine what Luca's going to grow up. This, bringing these words into awareness. And Mark would say, he would say, if you reduce your soft talk wording by 50%, you'll double your confidence. And so however true that is, it really does land with me. And a lot of the men that we've cleaned up their language, and to bring, if and when they do use it, it's out of choice and intentional, they're experienced so differently.
This goes on to some powerful stuff, really, because self-confidence and self-worth is something I've struggled with in terms of genuine self-confidence and self-worth when it comes to, I think, just, past things that have happened, and then actually fully believing in myself. But it's interesting because those words, or just being intentional with your language, not committing to things when there's a possibility that you may not follow through on them, I think is huge. And I know it's huge for me. And when I was younger, my mum's always been very, very conscious about, if you commit to something, you're going to do it. And I'd say the world has probably worn me down a little bit on that. And I've been like, if people are late, I used to, when I was younger, if people were late, I would take umbrage with it. And I realised it was only really hurting me because they didn't care if they were late, and I'd be the one who was angry about them not respecting my time. And so then I was just like, people are just shit. Okay, in general, they don't mean it. They just are. And so for me now, though, it's about having those standards for myself. If other people break them, then okay, maybe bringing that up with them. And so able to have that conversation with them and just understanding, I know when you have so many things on your plate, I know most people's lives are not just simple. They've got a lot of things going, a lot of moving parts. But if I was to say to you, like, we were doing this podcast, and we're doing this podcast on the 31st of October, I'll be at your house at 9:30. If I said that to you 3 weeks ago, it wouldn't matter. I'd be here then. But I know a lot of people, we're still doing this? We're still on? And it's like, I made plans. Yeah. And so that's always been something for me as well, how wish-washy people can be. And it never really made sense to me, because I was like, why would you say this and then not follow through? But I've realised that I've been like that in certain other areas. And so that was just, okay, been out of alignment sometimes when I've had past relationships, and because I've had so many things going on, and maybe I've over committed myself to things. And then I was like, okay. And you said that breaks trust with yourself, but it also breaks trust with the person on the other side. And so, soft talk challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Yeah. Challenge extended to anyone else out there as well. I think it's very powerful.
You know, when you first came over this morning, and I want to get into what the last few weeks have been like for you, but it's been so good to, you came to the retreat. It was within the last month, last 3 or 4 weeks,
Yeah.
so pretty recent. I got to catch up with you on a Southern California trip recently, and then immediately when you showed up to the house, I was like, damn, Ryan feels grounded. Ryan feels your rate of speech is even slower. Like you feel more just grounded in your body. And uh, and I got to spend obviously a fair bit of time with you at the retreat. But before we dive into that, so one, it's just beautiful to have you here, and I'm grateful that you made the trip from SoCal just to be here for this, really. And yeah, just love being around you. Our conversations with Lauren just a few minutes ago, and getting to drop in as a family, which was hilarious too. But if you don't mind, I'd love to go into, because the way this happened, and please share with the listeners. You had reached out to me a few times, I think over the last 1 to 2 years, about different rites of passages that are out there, or different vision quest or men's work, because I know this has been on your mind and on your heart. And a lot of that has been, and correct me if I'm wrong, not only your genuine interest, but also some of the challenges that you've experienced has led you to some of this stuff. So if we take a step back, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, this last year, where did some of the interest in diving even more deeply into, I think your words were, I want to learn, or I want to really develop more of my masculine core. And so I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah. First of all, pleasure to be here.
Mm.
It's yeah, it's been really great spending more time with you and
Mm.
Lauren, and the retreat was fantastic, and we'll get on to that. And I'm just sorry I couldn't bring the sun with me, but the reason I wanted to get into this is because what I was looking for really was a rite of passage. Having been someone who's always, when I was younger, like one of the popular group, and been into sports, always been around a lot of alpha men, quote unquote, and been in those environments, professional sport environments, and I've been around a lot of men who people you'd assume are well, they're alpha in certain ways, but you scratch beneath the surface, there's a lot of not vulnerability, but just it's not. How can I explain this? They're not stable in who they are, if that makes sense. And so it's a lot of it's bravado. A lot of it is people who even you see on TV shows, right? The main characters, someone like Tony Soprano, for example. He's the alpha dog, but anything that slightly throws him off, he just loses his temper. And I've been going into that. I've had a lot of stuff around anger and frustration, growing up, and a lot of old programs around that. I've been doing work in some respect for the last 10 years during health, but the last 2 to 3 years I've been diving more into really trying to understand how to become more of that grounded masculine presence. And the best way I can describe it is true masculinity is like having a safety blanket, is like being a safety blanket with a sword. And you have the sword and you can wield it when necessary. And when you strike hard and you're very direct with it, but you only do that when absolutely necessary. The rest of the time, you are the safety blanket for everyone around you. You can hold tension. You are decisive and you speak truth, but you do it from love. You're benevolent and you're generative. And there's no real masculine role models that emphasize all those things. Even in society or even in films, really. I've come across, apparently in Lord of the Rings, there is a king in that who's very much like the king archetype. And for me, the character that I go to and explain this is Mufasa in The Lion King, right? Because most of the kings you see are either the tyrant, where it's all about power and control, and then you've got the weakling, who's like Commodus in Gladiator, who's all about the conniving and trying to manipulate, because he hasn't got the right. So the tyrant can confront people, but it's all about power and ego and being destructive. Whereas the weakling won't confront people, but he'll do things behind people's back. Whereas the real king will stand there in his energy. He'll be direct, but it'll come from love, and he brings everyone up. But he also has standards, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks, and he's not afraid to speak truth. But he's got a lot of his integrity, intention, and where I've been in business and in relationships I was with a girl who called me her in every way, and I didn't really understand what she was looking for from me because I'd never dove into this work, and it wasn't until things got reasonably bad in our relationship because I was so stressed out with work, trying to bring in a certain amount of money, trying to be everything to everyone else, trying to take care of everyone, that I actually went through like massive panic attacks, and I realised my nervous system was very, very dysregulated. It had been for a long time, and that made me dive into this work and understand, well, what's been going on? And once I understood that my nervous system had been addicted to chaos or set up for chaos, I started to understand what the deeper issues were. And we never get in today's society a rite of passage that is what many of our ancestors went through, especially in the Native American cultures as well, where it's like boy to a man. And we have things in our society like prom or getting your driver's license or whatever it is, but there's no real understanding of what the difference is between a boy and a man. Most people, you put this in the research, shows that 90% or maybe 95% of people are actually, they never get above a 12-year-old's consciousness. So you've got all these quote-unquote adults in adult bodies that are actually just children, and it's why the world is the way it is. It's very reactionary, so much ego, and there's no one actually being an adult. And so one of the things I understood about rites of passage, it was almost going through something as a boy that's so painful, either physically or mentally or emotionally, that you understand what it's like to be a man. And if you can hold that and get through it, it's like, okay, you now understand that what it is to be a man, to have that responsibility, and you've walked through the fire, or whatever it may be. I know there's certain tribes that would take the boy and let them get stung by 1,000 ants, and just for the whole night they're in pain. But when they come out the other side, it's like, okay, now you understand. And if you can understand and get through that, then you now can take on that role and responsibility of being a man. And so that's just one aspect of it. And so I was looking.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes where boys learn, with or without the rite of passage, but where boys learn the imprint of what it means to be a man or to have that modeled is the father. Mm-hmm. Whether someone had a biological father in their life or whoever played that role. And if they didn't, there's usually some type of gap in the developmental psychology of that boy. Can I ask you, what did your father model to you, and what did you learn or not learn from your father about what it means to be a man?
It's interesting. So my dad, in so many ways, was fantastic. He showed me to be a man, to work hard, to put family first, to be useful, and to not. He wasn't someone who went out and just spent loads of time away from his family doing whatever he wanted. He was always someone that was around. He took me to a lot of places. He gave me his time. But there was certain things in terms of perfection that was expected, and performance, and looking a certain way, which made me always question my worth unless I was performing. And so I'd say there were some really good things, and then there was things that probably left me not feeling safe in certain ways unless I performed. And so unless I won. And there were probably certain instances where he this is the thing I always say, it's about our parents, right? They were doing the best job that they could, and I have absolute compassion for them, because my dad's dad, both my mum and dad, their fathers were in World War II. Both of them went, and they come back different men. My dad's dad was out in Japan. He saw his best friend get murdered and tortured in front of his eyes. My mum's dad was out in I think it was Afghanistan, working on planes in the heat for 4 years. Like, he never wanted to go anywhere hot afterwards. He come back and he had issues with alcohol. And so, I know that they didn't get the love and attention and all these things and so that feeling of safety, I suppose, complete security when challenges come up, was probably not there. But in terms of being a man, yeah, being useful, being a family man, always giving your best, working hard, were the things that he showed.
Yeah, I love hearing that, because there's a few things that you said that really hit home for me. One, I love what you were bringing up around getting curious about understanding our parents. Like, I do believe that in part what separates a man from a boy is taking ownership and responsibility for the life that you're creating. Like, you're a grown man. I'm a grown man. This is not to blame our parents at all, but it is to own our experience of the childhood that we had and how we felt, how we experienced it. So it's not to blame them. Blaming our parents, that's really putting ourselves in the victim mentality. So I think in part it's taking ownership for the life that we have, because we do have a choice, right? We have a choice now in what we're going to do with, becoming and stepping into the men that we want to be. But that second thing around really getting curious and understanding, like, holy smokes, like, my dad as well was an immigrant from Sicily, grew up in a farming town, has been working since he was 9 years old, was the breadwinner for an entire family. At 9 years old, he was running, my grandparents had a grocery store. 9 years old, running a grocery store? Like, at 9? Are you serious? Today? So and the amount of challenges and struggles, and, he wasn't perfect either, but he definitely did lay down some solid bricks for me. But this is how spiritual work is. I really do believe that my work as a man picks off where my dad's left, and his work as a man picks off where his father left off. And that's what it is. Like, Luca's work will pick up where mine ends. And so this is something even fairly new for me. Instead of looking so much back, like, I do think it's important to understand our history and where we came from and the inherited patterns generationally that were passed down. I think that's super important. And even more now than ever, I'm actually looking 6-7 generations forward. I'm looking for what's the imprint that I'm leaving right now with how I'm being, how I'm serving, how I'm living, how I'm parenting, and what's the impact it's going to be on not just Luca, but his kids and his kids' kids. So I think it's important to see what role our parents played or didn't play, because it's just good to have an understanding of that soup or whatever the ingredients that went into us early on. But after a certain point, we've got to actually take responsibility. And that's where rites of passage is, that we today, like what you're saying, we have to choose, we have to create for ourselves, because the societal structure just doesn't have that built in anymore, at least in the West, right? So keep going, yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's so powerful. Because I think a lot of people get caught in that victim mentality or blaming. It's like, no, like, they gave me a great foundation. There was areas where they could have done better, but they didn't have any of this work. They didn't know about any of this. So they did fantastic. Were doing the best they could, and if no one even talked about this stuff, back then, and so we're in a different generation, and it's up to us, and so we've got the tools, and now we can use them. And so my thing is, I want to be the best man example I can be, and then, as you said, when I have children, and pass it down. So, like, so much reverence and thanks for what they've done, and now it's up to me to take it further, and so that's why I was looking for it, because there's certain areas, like, my mum and dad are reasonably defensive about certain things, right? And when I look at that, that's not king behavior. When I say king, is, like today's world, she's a queen, he's a king, and it's cringe. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about embodying the energy of a king. Great book out there, King, Warrior, Lover, Magician, one of the best books I've read around this, the 4 archetypes for men. But that king energy is just someone who's, he knows who he is. He doesn't get drawn into nonsense. He's not reactive. He has responses. He's intentional with his thoughts, but with his language. And so, when you have anger or frustration, or when you think that you're being judged, it's interesting when it's coming from people that, rather than being defensive, when you get criticism, which when my girlfriend used to do this to me, I used to be defensive. Oh, but can't you see how hard I'm working, what I'm trying to do, all these things? It's like she was saying that to call me higher. She wasn't saying it to belittle me or put me down. One, I know there are women like that. I know there are men like that. She wasn't one of them, and you know where it's coming from. So, for example, if you said to me, Ryan, something that, you're out of integrity here or you're out of alignment here, be like, cool, because I know you've got my best intentions at heart, right? And so that's where I've developed, okay, Mike's saying this to me, because it takes a lot to say it to someone. It's easy not to say it. And just to carry on and wipe it under, put it under the rug. People used to have massive rows in the house, for example, and then it would be like silent treatment or not saying anything and then just leaving it, wiping it under the rug, whatever you want to say, and then pretending like it didn't happen, rather than being like, right, this happened. How can we stop this from not happening again? And my ex-girlfriend was one of the most emotionally intelligent people. And when I actually understood, I understand now, she was calling me higher. She was doing these things so that we wouldn't have these arguments in the future, so that she could see my potential. She was like, and I look at it now, I'm like, it makes me like emotional. Like, she could see my potential and I wasn't reaching it because I was stuck in old patterns and programs. And that's one of the things I was like, okay, how do I burn away all the things that aren't serving me? And how do I continue to develop the things that are, or add things that are? And so I write a passage. I've done a lot of hard things in my life with sport and being in those environments. But for me, the most, like the physical things on this, we did a sweat lodge, which was super physical, and that was intense, which we'll go into. But for me, the hard things is the vulnerability, and I heard something and it stuck with me, which is the amount of growth that you'll get is how much truth you can hear about yourself and not run away. And I was like, okay. And so a lot of this work has been, it's the physical, it's the mental, the emotional, and that's what I was looking for in terms of connecting all these things. And why I reached out to you is because I know you've been doing this. You're, I think, 2 or 3 years further down the line than I am. And I wanted something, whether it be a sacred hunt or a vision quest or, a sweat lodge and everything else we did, to symbolize me going through that journey and to also confront the things that are scary for me. And so for me, like the things that the work that we did, some of the scariest things for me was actually like the breath, releasing that during the breath work, or
the somatic
breath work.
Yeah, sure.
Which we can go into. And also just some of the speaking to people, looking in their eyes and just talking about my fears, or if you know me, if you really knew me, and just being super vulnerable with people, which I'm constantly doing now because I realise it's strength. And so there's many aspects to it, but that's what I was looking for, and to continue this. And so to burn away the programs and the patterns that have not been serving me, and to step into that. And because as a man, but as a business owner, etc., it's something that if we don't, Carl Jung says something like, paraphrasing this, but unless we make the subconscious conscious, we'll just go through life and thinking these things are fate, when in fact it's our old programs and patterns that are coming up. And so it's a full-time job doing the work, but we wouldn't have it any other way. And so did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's even more powerful coming from you, because you've been we're talking more deeper men's self-development stuff right now, but you've been doing work on yourself for 20 plus years, conscious work in terms of vitality, nutrition, taking care of yourself, right?
About 16 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, long time. And so one of the things that you and I agree eye to eye on, which is also why I'm excited to have you on the show today, is because so much of your life has been around vitality and detoxification and nutrition and all the things that we know it takes to be a vital man. In fact, my last men's group was called the Vital Man Collective. Now it's the Grounded King, as I mean, it's representative also where my heart is and where my curiosity is and where my path is as I'm learning these things more deeply. But the reason why I had called the last group the Vital Man Collective is because in the men's work largely that I had experienced, which there's some phenomenal teachers out there, like phenomenal teachers, a lot around nervous system regulation, how to bring vulnerability in healthy ways, how to bring vulnerability into intimate relationships, how to lead our intimate relationships, emotional intelligence, grounding, centering, all these great embodied principles. And yet, one of the biggest missing elements that I was seeing is largely they've forgotten the vitality piece. And sustaining the change process is hard. It requires energy, it requires discipline. And to sustain any form of change, a new pattern, etc., it's going to require life force. And so what I was finding, even within myself at times, I'm a new father. I don't say new father, he's almost 3 now, but I still feel like I'm a new father. Like it takes energy. And so if myself, you, or men out there are not taking care of themselves, not nourishing themselves, it's going to be so much harder. Like, when do the patterns show up? Usually they show up when we're fatigued, when we're tired, when we're in a fear state. And so if we're not even supplying ourselves with the base foundation of what it is to be a healthy man, that's been one of the biggest things of why I see men going back into pattern. That, and then not having the community when they return back from like a retreat, for example. They go back into their same patterns, their same relationships, the same job that they hate, all of that. It's the same environment, which is a form of community, is a form of, let's say, nourishment. But that's also why I appreciate that you, one, came to the retreat and also have dove in so deeply into this work, because you've worked on so much of the vitality piece, and now you add in some of this nervous system regulation and what we're talking about right now. It's like, that's a powerful combination. So I'd love for you to share more on that in terms of the role of vitality in this work and where you see those two complementing each other.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons also I chose to speak to you and then to work with you, right? Because so there's loads of people out there doing this work. There's loads of people that are health coaches, but they miss this aspect. Or there's people that are doing the nervous system work, but they're not healthy. They don't look healthy. They don't, you just look at their physique and just their energy. There's not many people that are walking the walk in all aspects. And as I said to you, it's why I was wanting to come and work with you, because you're like hitting that. You're hitting all areas, and it's where I want to be. As I mentioned before when we spoke, it's like Idol Portal talks about being the best generalist. Mm-hmm. Everyone tries to specialize, but as you know, Paul says when you specialists know more and more about less and less until know absolutely everything about nothing. All right, and so
That's good.
Yeah, so when you look at someone it's easy to just be like, oh, I'm a specialist in this area, but all the other areas of my life are completely, shot to pieces. It's like, no, but I want to be in good health. I want to be in good shape. I want to be a masculine presence. I want to have a regulated nervous system, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm also like the leading man of my company. I know you are as well. So it's like heavy weighs the crown. And so I said to you before, you don't follow the man who's got the map. You follow the man who's walked the path. And so that's why I wanted to, because I know you and I trust you. And there's loads of people out there that you scratch beneath the surface and they aren't who they say they are. Whereas I know you are. And I just want to be around people that are full of integrity, and also they're going to call me higher. And so, yeah, it's super important. And, I've been doing a lot of mental and emotional work and breath work, and every day I go for walks in nature. I was exercising intelligently. I was eating organic food, saunaing, doing all the things you can imagine, taking essential supplements, everything. But I had these massive panic attacks because fundamentally my underlying energy was got to do this, got to do this, got to do this, got so many things to do, tick the box, just stress. And it got to the point where they say God whispers, and if you don't listen, he shouts. I thought it was a heart attack when it happened. It was that bad. And I didn't realize panic attacks could mimic heart attacks. I actually got blue lighted to the hospital, and I had 2 stents fitted.
No shit.
Yeah, they went up my arm when I was awake.
No way.
And they put it out there because they saw a narrowing of an artery, which we now know that was 99%. It was always like that. But they go in, they see, and because all my blood work was perfect, blood work was perfect. Everything was perfect, like resting heart rate of an Olympic athlete and everything like that. And so it took some time.
Wow.
I realised, it was intense. Yeah, that was an intense. And so I was like, well, I'm doing all this stuff, but because it happened again in Italy afterwards when I was on holiday. And when I went there, they had all the blood tests again. They were like, do you know this could be a severe panic attack? And I was like, oh, I didn't realise that. And when I looked into it, I realised they can mimic heart attacks. And when it started to come on after that, I would deep inhale and again breathe through it, and it would start to disappear. And I was like, okay, I need to go deeper into this nervous system work, because even as they said, if you hadn't been as healthy as you are, it could have been a lot worse, right? And so this is why it's super important to embody all of this, because if you're missing in any area, so we're a holistic being, right? And so there's the nutritional side of things, the mental, the emotional, but the spiritual, the energetic. And I thought that I was covering all this, and I didn't realize that I actually had to go deeper into this. And that was a fundamental thing, because I could be doing all these things, but if my fundamental energy is I'm not enough, I have low self-worth, I'll only be worthy when I'm making this much money. Another thing, I lost like hundreds of thousands of pounds of investments, right? So my identity went down.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been up there, I've gone down. So I was like, okay, but if I only think that I'm enough when I've got that, then that's the energy I'm coming through, and I'm always chasing. And so that was when I understood also that because my nervous system was so chaotic, addicted to chaos back then, that I couldn't hold having that much money, right? And so I'd find a way to sabotage it.
Explain that more. I'm right there with you. I want
Yeah.
you just to go deeper with that, because that's important.
Because if your nervous system is always set up for chaos rather than peace, it will seek out chaos. So peace feels, oh, that's weird. It's like there's nothing to worry about. That's strange. I better go and find something that causes drama or stress. If you've never had a lot of money and you suddenly get some, that's why all these millionaires or win the lottery, 5 years later, they're all skint. We say skint in the UK. They're all brassic. They've got no money left, basically. Because they don't know how to be wealthy. First of all, they haven't got probably financial intelligence, but also energetically, they feel like it's safer to be poor than it is to be rich. And especially with that comes, you can go to certain places that other people can't. People look at you differently. And if you yourself don't feel like you deserve it, you're not enough, you'll find ways to get rid of it so you can go back to what feels safe. And so I was like, okay, it sucked. And it's been 3 years of like doing this work. My friend went through it as well, and it was like, okay, if I'd have kept that money, the person I'd have been would have been different to who I am now. So it's the journey I had to go through. So when it comes back, because I know it will, I'll be able to hold it. And I realised that doesn't make me who I am. But also, I know that I am enough, and it's not the money or the status that makes me who I am. It's me, and they're just what happens when I'm me fully.
To come to that realization, what does that feel like?
It's like pressure, a weight getting released off your shoulder. It's just a different energy to live with, if that's the best way I can describe it. It's like, okay. And so this was, and this is where there's so many things that go into the stories we tell ourselves, right? And look, this is a constant, for me, I'm constantly being very, very aware of the language I use, who I'm around, how I dress, how I eat, all these things, moving in a way that a king would, and building that self-worth and that self-value, and understanding it's me and not the things I have that are valuable, and I'm worthy of these things. And that also comes, as you mentioned before, bringing it all round into health, because I see a lot of people on these journeys, and there's probably this famous quote, man sacrifices his health to make money, then he spends all the money to get his health back. And when it comes to this, I see so many people on the journey with health and they don't understand this, and so that's where they have to end up doing the work, or the people that are doing this work, but then they neglect their health. And unfortunately, another quote I love is, when a man has his health, he has a million dreams. When he doesn't, he just has one, and that is, to get healthy. And so, also, if you're not healthy, I've got like a 14-day nervous system reset that I give my guys, and we go deeper after that. But one of the first things I talk about is you need to get your vessel healthy, because if your vessel isn't healthy, your body's always going to be in a state of survival, always going to be in a state of stress, always going to be in fight and flight, inflamed. And from that state, when you're inflamed, your body, you're in your limbic system, and so you're acting from survival, you're acting from reacting rather than from responding or from your true self. You're in survival mode. And so that means you'll make decisions, or you'll put yourself in situations that aren't conducive to your actual dreams and goals. You're in survival mode, so you'll do anything. It's like when you see an athlete, someone will tackle them badly on the pitch, and then they'll lose their head and they'll react, and someone says, oh, he was out of his mind. Like, he literally was at that time out of his mind, or she was out of their mind. They're in survival mode. And if you're in that all the time, what do you think that your actions are going to be, right? And so understanding that, getting your vessel healthy, and then people just loaded with other things like chemicals and heavy metals, and their gut health's off, and they're just walking around 2 or 3 stone overweight, and it just means that they're never going to be able to hold the energy that they could and make decisions from their higher self, because they're energetically out of alignment with what they're trying to do. And so you can see people that get great success, but it will either be short-lasting success in terms of finance, but I always talk about this as well. Is it success if you've got all the money in the world, but your family life's shot to pieces? Your relationship's done. You don't have a relationship with your children. So that's not really success. It's financial success. But you even see people that get a lot of money, and it will somehow they'll lose it because of these things. And so it's important to encompass it all.
Well, what that brings up, and we spend a lot of time, some speaking about it, but more demonstrating it at the retreat and in all the work from the men's group, the Grounded King, to other stuff, and it's the container, right? The container, like what we're talking about, the more that you're in an alignment, the more that you're in integrity. Integrity is one of the key masculine principles or frameworks. So something that has integrity, it has the ability to hold more, exactly what you're saying. But if we have a bunch of holes in our physical integrity, in the integrity of our heart, in the integrity of our soul, in the integrity of our word, we're not going to be able to hold as much. Not going to be able to hold as much of our own feeling, sensing, emoting, and definitely not nearly able to hold that in our feminine partners, or if we're a leader of our company, we'll have a lot of these holes. So the goal for me is not around perfection, but to understand, really do an honest, legit inventory of these things. And what are the conversations that we need to have, but that we've been avoiding, for example? Where are all these micro holes? Because not only do they leak, but they also pull our attention and our awareness, so we're never going to be really present. I mean, you've shared beautifully about the energy of a generative king. And one of the most important things in terms of what I believe when a man is felt in that energy is he's present. Like, I can look at you, and not just look at you, but I can feel you're just solid with where you're sitting. And so if we have all of these micro holes and we're not even aware that we've got all these leaks, it's going to pull our attention, pull our awareness. I may be here physically with you, but actually my consciousness or what I'm thinking about, oh my God, what am I doing after this? Am I going to this? Do I have this client to get to? It's like, no, when you're here with me, as much as possible, you're fully here with me and I'm fully here with you. And I get that mirrored back, I mean, in all relationships, but especially with my son, because he knows when Papa's there but not there. And it even hits harder because that's a really painful reflection or a mirror back to me, because I really understand that all he really wants is my presence. So if we're laying down and I've got my phone on because I'm checking something, he can sense it whether he says it or not. And I've seen his behavior change so much when I'm not present with him. But I'm bringing this back because, again, it's not about being perfect, but I do believe it's about being honest with where are those leaks and then making a gesture towards cleaning these things up, being in more integrity. And so the container that we create is really what allows, ideally, more trust, more safety, more depth, more openness, more transformation at this work. And so, and the vitality piece is one of those things, which is why I'm super big on the food that's made there. And Lauren cooking all the food my wife made with so much love, so much intentionality from scratch, the water that they're drinking, all the products that we use. But I would love to hear, when you reflect back on that experience, I know there was so many, what did Greg say, one of the facilitators, that it's a bunch of smaller ceremonies in a larger ceremony, but is there one moment or one exercise or activity, and we can go through a small handful of them, but I'd love to see what was a moment that took you to that place where, if we want to say a rite of passage, because in terms to have a rite of passage, at least how I understand it with people I've talked to, and my mentor, Ted Ryder, there needs to be some degree of, you said burning away, there needs to be some degree of a death to a part of ourselves. And almost as if there's a point of no going back. Once you come through an experience, the version of yourself or the layers of yourself, you've burned so much of that away that there's no choice to go back to the former version. So I'm just curious, what moment or moments stick out in your experience where you got to meet that part of you and still walk the next step forward?
Interesting. Before I answer that, I just want to say the presence thing is massive. Huge. And that was something that I didn't realize until I had my girlfriend as well, like not being present, being there but not being there. And now, like, I'm so present all the time when I'm with people. Like, the phone is not there, because that can just pull people away. And I know that it's something people struggle with because of the world we're in. But if you get intentional with it, it's so important. When you are present and when you are fully in what you're doing, that's another thing with the nervous system stuff, one thing at a time, rather than multiple things all over. One thing at a time is a game changer.
Like multitasking, you're saying?
Yeah, multitasking,
single point focus.
Yeah, multitasking is, it actually eats, we can go deeper into it. I want to go deeper into the vessel again, but we'll do that in a minute. And multitasking, it fries the nervous system. It eats through your reserves, and you don't actually get anything done well. This research shows this, that when you're doing two things at once, nothing gets done well, things get missed, overlooked. Whereas when you're there and you're fully on it, you do that, then you move to the next thing. And the presence as well, when you're talking to someone, looking them in the eye, not being able to look someone in the eye is also a sign of a dysregulated nervous system, not being seen, not wanting to be seen. But to answer your question around the retreat, so there were, many ceremonies within a ceremony. And I know for me, for me, the breath work, the somatic breath work, the release that we had, the energy of that was powerful, because that was opening up like that, everyone fully committed. And I've done breath work before and I've been in groups, but this was something where every man was in, 100%. And it allowed everyone to fully release and to go through that process. And that felt like a death, in terms of I'd never been able to just do that and feel comfortable doing that, because I'd always be worrying about how I was perceived or what was going on, or judgment, and I felt absolutely no judgment there whatsoever. In fact, it was the complete opposite, and that allowed me to understand that I can be that vulnerable and to go through it, and everything's going to be okay.
Mm.
And on that, like one of the guys when we were around the fire pit, breaking down crying in front of other men, I was like, that's brave and that's powerful. Because, for me, probably like you, playing sport, pushing myself, going in the ring, fighting someone, whatever it may be, doing more, that's easy. But it was easy to understand. It was like, I've done that, and so I know what it's like. But being vulnerable, doing less, opening up, that's the challenge for me. And so that was one of those things that I know. And the other thing was the sweat lodge, and also being disconnected from the astral world or the phone for that amount of time. And that really allowed me to understand how much I need that time. I just felt very centered the whole time I was there. And obviously with work and things, I do a lot online like yourself. And so I can be in that space and it can pull me off center a little bit. And so being there, I was like, okay, this is something that I now know moving forward is something that I will be doing every few months, just 3 days in the woods. But yeah, there's no coming back from that sweat lodge either.
Before we get into that, I want to just go back for a moment on the breath work.
Okay.
What was the story that you said you never, like it's been a challenge for you to go there?
Mm-hmm.
And what I understood as you kept sharing was it was a challenge for you to go into that level of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, so course correct me, but to surrender or to let go or to allow yourself to go there. What was the story either then or before then historically, if I'm vulnerably or if I show these parts of me, what was the story? Then it means what?
I'm weak.
Then I'm weak.
Yeah, I'm vulnerable. I'm weak. Yeah, yeah. I'm embarrassing.
Mm.
Yeah. People can use it against you.
Yeah, and use that vulnerability and turn it right back. That lands. Okay. The other thing that, and let me know if this is true, this is one of the things that came up too in the retreat is, and not just in the retreat, but in myself and even one-on-one clients, like many of us men want to be in control, right? And so to be an experience like that where, it is a tight container and there's some degree of structure which creates the freedom to go into emotional expressions from anger, sadness, grief, laughing, shaking, crying, whatever the expression is. But it does require a certain degree of letting go of control. And in all the breathwork ceremonies, that's why I absolutely love that style of breathwork when it's used in that way and in that type of container. Because one, it's very rare. Like, where else do we get that opportunity as men or as people to go to a place where fucking all of you is welcome? And I'm not even just saying it, it's just how it's felt, right? Didn't tell anybody there's no telling anybody. It's just this, you have the freedom. You're in the driver's seat. If you want to go into some stuff, you'll have the space to do that, and we'll support you in any capacity that we can. But to go into a room where there's 16 guys or 15 guys, you said the words laying it all out, letting themselves feel things that maybe they've never let them feel. That even what is it like to feel powerful? Like when you have all that breath, that is the medicine. There's no psychedelic, nothing. You are the medicine. When you've got all that energy coursing through you, can you even allow yourself, can we allow ourselves to even, what does it mean? Like what would it feel like to truly feel good, vital, and powerful in my body? We talked also on a related but separate note, I'll ask guys like, hey, practice projecting your voice. There's so many ways that we play small.
Yeah.
So the breath work can be a great nudge and you're in the driver's seat, so there's no pressure to go anywhere you don't want. But if you do want to meet that party, if you do want to go, not only is it super welcome, but you got 15-ish other guys there. I forget the exact words you said, but leaving it all out and facilitating that, for me, it's just so goddamn inspiring. Like, wow, that just touches a part of me, and it's really unique energy to be in.
Yeah. We don't get taught any of this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah, I feel you.
Like, they don't teach us about any of the valuable stuff. We go and we learn about Pythagoras' theorem that we never use ever again. No one teaches you about finances or running a business, and no one teaches you about the mental, the emotional work, anger release. Like, how many men walk around there, they're just super angry and they never release it, and it comes out like someone does something. The guy that cuts you up and he's giving you the middle finger, it's nothing to do with you. It's like something's happened before in his life and it just comes out. And so it's these are things that men need, like, massively. Community to speak about this, like around the fire pit. I said, if you had that every day, there'd be no problems on earth. Men would just get around, talk about things, have that community where they could all help each other out. Something comes up, you speak, you leave it out, and then if anyone wants suggestions, they can give you them. Otherwise, it's just allowing that to come out, be heard. But then having tools to use that, to let that energy out. Because so many men carry anger, frustration, shame, guilt, and it never gets released, and it's bottled up, and that's a deep, dark energy to hold. And then it does come out in ways. It's repressed or suppressed. Yeah, it's very, very powerful to be with other men as well. And you mentioned that you've had other groups. All your groups have been fantastic, but you've had other groups that maybe one or two were a bit more reserved, or maybe took a bit of a joking attitude towards certain things. And just that one person being off meant the energy of the container was just slightly not as high as where it could have been. Whereas everyone in this container is I know it was incredible, the energy in the room, right? And that's like the power of men coming together and actually being vulnerable and open and sharing. Because it's the same as anything, you're in a team sport, it takes one person to just not buy fully in, and it means that the container doesn't hold the same amount of energy. Yeah, and having that trust in the container, but also in the teacher. So I think the teacher is actually it's massively part of the container, right? Because if you trust the teacher, then you're willing to go to places that you maybe wouldn't go otherwise, because one, you trust them, and two, they trust you. And they're coming from a place of, so I said before, when you've done it yourself, you've been there. That's why I said, you don't follow the man with the map, you follow the man who's walked the mountain, because if things come up, you've been there, you've done it, you know what happens. Same with me, like the coaching that I do, if people go through things, or so for example, they're doing a deep detoxification, or they're in different parts of whatever we're doing, if something happens, Ryan, this has happened. No problem, we do this. Or that's cool, that's meant to happen. Rather than being like, oh no, what do I do? Scrambling, and so having that container, is super important. And that was, it was a spiritual experience, really. And to release that, and because I've probably only ever released in that way maybe once before, but even probably not as much as that. That was like completely released. And so, scheduling that in when things happen, to actually release that energy is, I know, powerful.
What do you think it did for you now after the retreat? What is you shared in the beginning about like feeling like lighter, like you took some weights off. I don't recall if that was related to the breath work or not, but what do you think you're taking home from that experience that you've carried with you now?
That it's all right to let go, to release, to surrender, to go into areas where you feel vulnerable, and you're going to be you're fine, you're going to be safe. And that if I don't make time to do these things, then you're going to keep on getting the same results that you've had before. And so being, what's like when you talk about you get a negative thought. No, I catch that, I put it in the bin, or I don't do that anymore. When I feel like I've got anger or frustration in me, allowing me to go in and do an anger release. Because if you don't, then you're just going to keep on getting the same results. And so it does mean changing how you see yourself. Your identity is everything, right? So it changes my beliefs, which changes my identity. And that allows for different actions, because it all comes down to that. All the things we talk about at the end of the day, when your identity is of someone who does these things, everything else follows. And you do them because, you feel safe, but they get the results you want, and that's the person you are ultimately. You eat organic food because that's who I am. I always say you don't do healthy things to become a healthy person. Mentally, emotionally, you become a healthy person, and the healthy things come naturally. And it's the same with this. Okay, I now know that when I've got anger, frustration, shame or guilt in me, then I can do these things, and it's something that I've got tools to take away, but I've also got the understanding of how powerful it is when I commit to that.
I love that, man. I mean, one of the big things that I'm so passionate about is, as much as possible, giving guys at these experiences tools that they can take home with them. Because the name of the game is the integration piece.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest things, right? So what are some of the tools that, I know we'll talk also briefly about the Sweat Lodge. I don't want to miss that. But I also really want to make sure that we hit. Let's go into Sweat Lodge next, and then we'll wrap up with really leaving people with the tool or the tools that you are taking home with you.
Yeah. So we can do the tool just while we're on it, just so I remember where we were going with it. There was many things. There was the meditations that we did as well.
The seated ones?
The seated ones, but it was really understanding. There was feel, see, hear, and sitting with them, allowing you to feel energy and just to process it and understand it and be with it. So it sort of comes back into that, right? Because when you feel things, a lot of times you feel a feeling that isn't fun, anxiety, the loneliness, shame, guilt, whatever it is. You want to run away from it, rather than going, okay, that's there. Let me just recognize it. Let me be with it. Let me name it, and then we can transmute it. So that was one of the tools. We did it in a meditation, but I took that with me in everyday life as well. So that was something that we used. The somatic breath work we did as well, which allowed us to release. And I get a lot of tension in my solar plexus, so that was very powerful. And I now know that if I feel like I've got anger or frustration or things in me that I need to release, I can go somewhere, whether it be in the car, whether it be in my room or somewhere, and I can release that through breath work and then through vocalizing it. It may mean I've put a pillow or something in my mouth or whatever to release that, but it's something that allows my energy to clear. And then the stories were really powerful. The story work we did. Ultimately, we carry on these stories with us that aren't true, or maybe the opposite is true. But when they're in our head and they're going quickly, you can go into a state of anxiety, or it can be stress rather than. So when we went through the stories, it was writing them down, it was putting them on paper. Takes them out of your head. It gets the energy out of your head of just cycling and puts it on paper, so it's like right in front of you. Then it was reading through it slower, and then reading through it and taking a breath after each sentence, and it just takes the energy out of that. And so it was really interesting doing that because I know I've got stories in my head now that I will do that, and it just it literally allows you to see things from a different perspective as well. Some of the things you've been going around in your head that you've been like making bigger than what they are, you see them on paper and you're like, oh, that's actually, And it actually allows you to even see that that's not even about you, it's about someone else or what they did. And you're carrying this and it's not even about you. So I'm trying to think, there was the Qigong I did with Johnny. I've done Tai Chi and Qigong before, but I took home that practice, building the energy. It's a nice tool to start my day with and just build the internal life force, because people don't understand, a lot of people don't know, but Qi, life force, prana, they've been doing this in the Middle East, in the Eastern philosophies for thousands of years, and that's about bringing your life force up, working out. It feels great, you release endorphins, but you use energy, whereas working in is about cultivating energy, and it allows you to be more grounded, more centered. So I've done that myself before, but it was nice to have a different practice from Johnny. And I mean, the archetypes were another thing we can go into. There was a lot that we did that was fantastic. The archetype work with Greg was eye opening. Was phenomenal. Doing the archetype wheel, got my cards on my desk and my highest potential. Go out of that tomorrow actually and into 11th house. I can't remember exactly what that is, but I go from hero to martyr.
I've got, where is it? I've got mine, but yeah, we're in the month of the 11th house. And for context, the archetype wheel, Greg Schmaus, he's coming back, he's facilitated 2 retreats alongside me and Dr. Johnny. He'll be coming back in May, and we've done multiple podcasts, but we did an entire one. I'll put it in the show notes, but we did one entirely on the wheel. And that's a phenomenal one if people want to understand the language of archetypes, which is really the language of the psyche. And it's not personal. So oftentimes, for example, the king, warrior, magician, lover, those are archetypes. And so it just gives us a more impersonal way to interact with these parts of ourselves. But just to recap, I want to make sure. So the meditation technique, which for anybody interested, I was guiding, it's a very simple process, and the simplicity of the tools from the story work to the meditation, that's what I feel is so powerful, is just practicing the goddamn fundamentals consistently every day. And so the meditation was around see, hear, feel, and it's really to develop 3 qualities. Concentration, so the ability to focus more on what it is that you want and less on what you don't want in your life. Clarity, so to pick up details and nuances in your experience, to see more of what is already there. I mean, I've had this experience multiple times when I've walked out of the house, which I've walked out of this house thousands of times. And then one day I'm like, oh my God, I never ever saw that beautiful plant right outside the door that's always been there, because I've been on such a routine to get out, get to the car, go execute, go win, go do this. So to pick up more of what's in our environment, in our relationships, more of what's inside of us. And then the third skill, and these are skills, I'm really big on training. So the physical part of me and the physical part of you, I really have brought that into this work. And to train, you can call it equanimity or balance. So to be less pulled into, less getting lost in the sauce, or to approach more things, whether it's the pleasant things, the unpleasant things, or the neutral things, with more of a calm matter-of-factness. So the technique of see, hear, feel, you break apart your experience into, and there's many variations of this, so I'm keeping it just for the sake of conversation. You could take anything. So if we did see in, feel in, hear in, and we did individual meditation, we broke it all down so it's not too confusing. But so feel in, which is what you were talking about. So you can close your eyes and then you sit, nasal breathing ideally. And when you notice an emotion, so an emotional sensation in the body, you just label it internally with the word feel. And then you focus on it. That's a technique called noting. You focus on it intently for a few seconds, and that builds concentration. And then after a few seconds, you allow your attention to be naturally pulled to another feeling. And as soon as you notice that, you focus on it, you acknowledge it, and you dive into it intently, picking up details, nuances, where is it, how intense, what's the texture of it. You focus on that for a few seconds. And basically, you continue that process, but if you don't notice any feeling, you say the word rest. and you focus on what does it feel like to be in a state of peace. Now I'm simplifying it, but if someone just sat for 10 minutes, which for me is the minimum duration of an official practice, and wanted to focus on that quality and whatever else, whether in that situation, if we had mental chatter or noises outside, or we had visions in our, images that would pop up in our head, all of those in the context of this meditation, feel in only, would be a distraction. So that's where it takes concentration. And whatever the distraction is, training our body to let it pass, or if we do get pulled into it, to bring it back. So the meditation technique, the story work, so looking at the stories. We actually did that one right before breath work, which I love doing that to move. It can create a bunch of emotions and move stuff. Then we take it into the breath work. You said the Qigong, so a moving meditation. So just wanted to anchor those to recap some of the big tools that landed for you.
Yeah. Yeah, they were powerful. All of it really, and just I look through my book and my notes most mornings and just lock in.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and
Cool.
just see what come up, and then the archetype work, and then obviously the big things being on Tim's land and the sweat lodge, which was, I said before, I've done saunas, and I was like, this. I didn't realize. I was sitting next to you at the sweat lodge, which was actually quite. It was very symbolic for me because I was obviously there with yourself to go through a rite of passage, and that was a rite of passage for people that haven't experienced a sweat lodge before. Intense would be the word, life changing, but definitely something that as a man, I think. Definitely people benefit from and an experience like that to understand what you can tolerate, because people that haven't had a sweat lodge before, I don't know if you spoke about it on your podcast before, but that when they bring in the stones that are heated up for 4 or 5 hours before they come into the sweat lodge, which is a hole in the middle of the ground, and when they come in, they're searing hot, they're red hot, you can see the heat on them, and usually they only bring 6 stones per round. That's what Tim said, but for us he brought in 8 because it was a rite of passage, and he knew that it was going to be like a pivotal moment for a lot of people. This is what he said. I don't know if this is always the case, but every round, so when we were in there locked in, 4 songs, then he opens and asks for more stones, and we bring in more, and it's a very powerful ceremony. Like, he's singing the songs, we're all chanting as well, we welcome the stones in, he puts the steam on the stones, and when it first come in, the first round, I was like, okay, this is all right, I can deal with this. I was like, okay, the door went open, he brought in the next stones, and we all chanted. By the end of the second round, I was like, this is intense. I was like, okay, we've got 2 more rounds of this. This is going to be interesting. We actually got the opportunity to go out and have a quick dip in the water in between, and as I said,
which is cold,
and as I said in the fire pit, I don't think if the first person hadn't have left, none of us else would have got out, because boys are stupid like that. We've been like, he's not getting out, I'm not getting out
in the break, because
the
second round he runs his where he actually allows people to go take a dip for really quick, then you got to come right back in.
And then the third and fourth rounds, they're the championship rounds. They're the championship rounds, because before that we were all sitting up in meditative positions, and then that third round, into the third round, I was like, my head was getting low because it was so hot in there. Doors open, and then the 4th lot of stones come in, and that third round, one of the guys who'd done a sweat lodge before, he's like, I've had enough, and got out and went, and I was super close to following him. I was like, this is intense. 4th round come, and got through it by the skin of my teeth at every single round. I was like, I'm like, come on, get through it. I knew if I had left, I'd have been annoyed at myself, and I wasn't going to do it. And then the power of the container, the group, was really strong in there, because everyone was in it. And when the door opened, when he's like, okay, that's it, guys, and he opened up, but he said, you've got to stay here for a little bit longer. I was like, Tim, okay. But when I looked up and everyone was on the floor, I was like, okay, it's not just me, because that's as hot as I've ever been. And it took a while to even like come round from that. I know it took you you had a little moment yourself afterwards, and I was laying down this on the bench looking up at the trees when we crawled out of there, and I was like, my body was shaking. I was like, okay, you know, you've gone through that. That's powerful. That's something that a lot of people will never go through, and you survived that. You know, there's you know what you can. It's like the pressure. It molds the stones into diamonds, right? And so, and then having that moment to be in the springs and to clear off the water and be around the fire pit with the guys was very special. You know, and to be with other men doing this work who care enough to do this work is it was also like, you know, okay, there are other guys, and it all ripples out, right, to people that we know. And so, yeah, for anyone who hasn't done a sweat lodge before, I would, it's a life changing. It's like one of those experiences you'll never forget. So, yeah. And when we ran the fire pit later on, and you guys said, you know, that's the hardest one I've ever done. Me and Harry looked at each other and we were like, thank God for that. Because we were like, okay, because that was like right on the cusp. And so, yeah, no, it was epic. And that was like the energy of that. Yeah, won't be able to forget that.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I've been through a good number of lodges, and they're all different, right? How they're facilitated, the group. Sometimes the hardest ones, for me at least, aren't even the hottest. It just really depends for me where I'm at in that moment, that season of life, how much resources I have. You know, facilitating a retreat takes a ton of energy, and so to do that towards the end of the retreat, my resources are a bit lower, and that one humbled me right, and took me to exactly the medicine that I needed as well. I had I've never talked about this on a show yet, but I'll share briefly, and then yeah, we'll close this out. But man, there was a lot that came through. But coming out of that lodge and then jumping right into the cold water, it felt like energetically I was pulsing, but pulsing in this, like pulsing. Normally when we think of a pulse, like we put our hand on our pulse and it's like a little boom, boom. But it literally felt like 6 to 8 inches, my entire body was pulsing out. And then to sit in a meditation position, that went to the same spot I did last year because I had this really powerful vision. And last year, the vision that I had was eyes closed, had this picture of hundreds, if not thousands of people, because it's all in the mountains right there, walking over the mountain. And the message for me in that moment was help is coming to spread this mission, to do more of this work. And it was so powerful. This year, the message was very similar, except it was even wilder because it was actually eyes open. And it was seeing this light texture of image of same thing, hundreds of people. But instead of them coming over the mountains, they were right here. Like, and it's not as clear as I'm seeing you right now by any means, but it's an image. And it was help is here. And it was such a powerful, visceral, heart-connecting moment. It's like, God damn, like, it's here. And then the second vision that I had, when I went back to the venue to tell Lauren, as soon as I walk in, I was like, sweetie, I had a vision. She's like, oh my God, what is it this time? And to see our son, our 2 sons, that we were going to have a second kid. And I was like, got so emotional. And it was a powerful moment for me. So I'm just super grateful. The way Tim led it was amazing, deep, and he's been on the podcast just a few episodes before this one. So please check that out. He's a phenomenal human, wrote the book, The Earth Caretaker Way. And just the guys that were there, man, everybody showed up, like you said, multiple times, just locked in. And I learned this from my mentor, Ted. There's 2 things that I and he, you know, he's taught me, but to really look for in men for this work. I mean, everybody's welcome for the most part. I've never turned away a guy. But and I share this on the discovery calls. 1, it's the willingness to be vulnerable, the willingness to show who you really are, the challenges that you're really facing, because that's the only way that I'm really going to get to know you, right? So the willingness to show up and be vulnerable at whatever level you're comfortable with, but that's key. The second thing is called generosity of practice. And so this can show up in many different areas throughout an experience like this. But for example, in a sharing circle, you could be sharing something that you've never shared with anybody, and you're taking a risk. You're showing this part of you that there may be shame or fear, embarrassment, whatever. And irregardless of what you say, I'm going to be a full yes. I'm going to be a full yes to this man and be there and listen and give him the time, energy, and presence that he deserves. And so whatever he says, I'm going to hold him in a high regard, in a loving regard. And when you combine those things, the generosity to be there for another man, to call him forward, to sit with him in front of the lodge, and when he's struggling, be like, yo, brother, like, we got this. We got to be generous with your time and energy and support for another man. And then you're willing to show more parts of you. That mix creates just a nucleus of just something so potent. So I also got, truthfully, so much from this group and this experience, and I'm so happy that you came. So I wanted to also just leave it up to you. Any final words, man, that you would love to communicate as we wrap?
Yeah, no, Tim, do you want to echo your words on Tim? He's a special human being, and I said to him, you should have your own podcast. He just goes into these stories, and they're like, my man, like, he's got such depth and warmth.
Yeah.
Which is like, I said, it's really refreshing to see like an older person who isn't like just despondent or torn down by, stress or dreams not coming true or life not going their way. And he's just like, he was emotional a few times when he spoke to us. And I was like, yeah, like he's tears in his eyes talking about things. I'm like, yeah, that's power. And so, yeah, no, the ability for everyone to hold that and to be there for each other and to speak. And that's why the fire pit at the end of the night is one of the most powerful things, right? You're just sitting there, and sometimes the silence in between people saying stuff, it's like, okay, letting things land. And having the confidence to speak up and to share, it's an interesting thing, and it's really powerful. And so, yeah, it all combines really nice. And as you said you said help is on its way, right? Is your vision. And we talked about this before. It's why, we were talking about bringing this and the health side of things, the vitality side of things together, because there's so many people out there that don't understand just how good they can feel if they get the health side of the things right. So they're doing this, but their life would be easier if they got all the inflammation out of their body, and they healed their gut, and they cleared themselves of so many toxins like mucoid plaque or liver stones, and they got rid of heavy metals in their body and parasites and all these things, but it worked on their internal health, and they exercised intelligently, and they got enough sunlight, and they moved their body, they did qigong, and they did all these things, bit by bit, stage by stage, not all at once, but getting their vessel, because this work would then be like, okay, I haven't got all this weighing me down. And similarly, the people that are doing all the health stuff coming into this, because they're like, okay, now my vessel's clear, I can start to embody, I can start to actually work on the things that are going to allow me to be the best version of myself. And so I cleared the health, so I cleared cleared my vessel of all the toxins and energy and the things that I don't want, and now my vessel, my mind, is ready for the elevation. And so, yeah, it's like hand in hand, and that's why making these connections, and we've known each other for a long time, but can combine this in some way and be able to help more people, because ultimately, we said, we're giving people what they need to be the best versions of themselves, and so most people don't even know what they don't know, but then by bringing this into, because people come to you and they're like, okay, then you add this on, it's gonna change your life. And the same with me. I'm like, okay, this is great, but then like, what are we doing it for? So you can be the best version of yourself. Okay, then we need to work on the nervous system. We need to work on the mental, emotional side of things, and stepping into your full king energy. And for women, queen energy, that feminine energy, the polarity between masculine and feminine is super important. And I've talked about that with my guys and saying, I want to bring polarity back. Men being true men, that true king energy, and we females being truly feminine, and understanding that we're not meant to be everything each other is. We're meant to be everything each other isn't. You know, and so yeah, it's just like super happy to be here to share this with you, brother, and to be on this path with you, and as you said, the integration side of things, right? And so that's why I'm going to be diving into your container as well for the
Grounded King
Grounded
group.
King.
Yeah.
Because same as everything, right? We've got these. We have a course or we work with someone, but it's the integration which is the super important thing, because it allows us to continually just check in, and it keeps you honest and accountable. And so, yeah, that's going to be powerful. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited, man. Hell yeah. Great conversation, brother. Thank you for everything. And many more ahead.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Been a pleasure.
Hell yeah. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.